The salt plains of Kerix glimmered under the twin moons, pale as frozen ash. The wind hissed through the dunes, tasting faintly of a sea that had vanished 1,000 years ago. Asha Verdan had been born into this silence. She knew how to listen to emptiness, how to hear the whispers that did not belong to wind or sand. Tonight the whisper called her downward, into a crater of crystallized salt where the rusted bones of an ancient machine lay half buried. "Another grave," she murmured. From her headset came the warm, gravelly voice of Tal Ren, a retired navigator turned scavenger. "Careful, child. If that thing is a Reaper ship, it won't appreciate being disturbed. And if it isn't, then we're still too close to Directorate patrols to find out the easy way." Their third crew member, Kerr, crackled in with his usual mischief. "If it is a Reaper ship, we sell the core and finally buy ourselves real coffee instead of this powdered misery. I've already prepared the containment crates. They're lonely." Asha smiled despite the tension. Kerr could joke in the middle of a meteor storm. She slid down the glittering slope, salt crunching under her boots. Her glove brushed a patch of dark metal, and a pulse of vibration sang up her arm, subtle yet alive. She froze. The sound was not mechanical. It was harmonic. Since childhood, Asha had dreamed of such tones, spirals of light and rhythm that no one else heard. Tal called it the resonance, an ancient vibration said to link all living matter, a language of atoms older than speech itself. "Not magic," he'd told her once. "Just the oldest physics we've forgotten how to measure." Now the resonance thrummed beneath her palm like a heartbeat. The hatch gave way with a sigh. She stepped inside, her lamp slicing through darkness. Melted corridors twisted like wax. At their center waited a black glass cylinder veined with silver filaments, its surface faintly breathing with light. "Found something," she whispered. "It's sleeping. Don't touch it," Tal warned. "If it's what I think, we'll carry it together." "Kerr, bring the lift rig." But Ash's beam caught a hand-drawn mark above the door, 3 concentric circles slashed through by a single line. Her breath caught. "Tal, there's a chapel sign here." "The rebellion's chapel burned decades ago," Tal said grimly. "No one's left." "Then who carved it yesterday?" Before he could answer, Kerr's voice broke through, sharp now. "Bad news. 3 Directorate cruisers inbound, tight formation. Someone tipped them off." "Grab the core," said Tal. "We're leaving." The escape. Their ship, Sable Miracle, was a relic but quick. It burst from the crater in a plume of white dust. 3 black wedges rose behind them, red targeting beacons locking on. "Down and east," Tal commanded. "Kick the thrusters at the ridge gap. We'll vanish in the glare." Kerr cursed but obeyed, cutting a maneuvering engine to throw off the sensors. The ship jolted, dove, and skimmed a dune so close that sand exploded across the cockpit glass. In the cargo hold, Asha held the core steady. Its light pulsed faster, almost like breath drawn before speech. "It knows the way," she murmured. "Not it," Tal said. "You're hearing the grid through it. That device is a node. Long ago, such nodes tied worlds together before the Directorate broke them apart." Asha barely heard him. The hum deepened, folding into a tone she somehow recognized. She reached out, 2 fingers on the cylinder's surface, and the universe unfolded. For one timeless instant she saw a lattice of radiant threads stretching through blackness, countless strands connecting worlds like veins of living light. Some burned bright, others frayed to nothing. She extended her mind and touched a nearby knot. Light swallowed her. The Sable Miracle vanished from Kerix. The cruisers fired into emptiness. A new sky. They reappeared above a dead planet veiled in glassy plains. Tal stared at the readings, pale. "Orphelia," he breathed. "Once the heart of the academies, until the Directorate purged it." "So we jumped, without a ring," Kerr said, fighting panic. "You just folded space with your mind." "I didn't try," Asha whispered. "It just happened." Tal's gaze softened with both fear and reverence. "You may be a voice of the grid, Asha. The chapel believed such people extinct. They landed among the ruins of an amphitheater half buried in fused glass. The air shimmered with static ghosts of past storms. In the quiet, Asha felt the core calling. Inside the underground hall they found working power cells and the remains of research terminals. Tal set up scanners while Kerr grumbled about haunted libraries. The cylinder lay on the table like a sleeping heart. It isn't only a node, Tal muttered. It's a conduit, a mind that once spoke between worlds. And it's waking. Symbols flickered across its surface. Asha read them without knowing how. Aviza, she said aloud. The name echoed, and glass shards quivered as if in applause. Then a voice filled their skulls, clear, calm, timeless. I am Aviza, third conduit of the five. I have waited 7,231 years. The threads are frayed. The hourglass is clogged. Who summons me? Asha swallowed. We're survivors of the chapel. We seek to rebuild the harmony the Directorate destroyed. The chapel burned, said Aviza, but sparks remain. Sparks may sing or burn. Which are you? The ones who listen, Asha replied. And act when the song calls. Then hear this voice. The grid is severed by Archon Malrek. He forges a devouring prism to consume light and sound, so none may sing without his leave. The prism births on the moon Aner in 111 hours. Gather the choir before then, or all resonance will die. Tal's face hardened. So it's true. He plans to mute the universe. Aviza's light dimmed, then flared. 3 tones lie waiting. One where the winds are silent but speak in sails. One in the stone that remembers labor. One in laughter that refuses death. Find them. You're the 4th. The 5th will come when the prism believes itself complete. Above them an explosion rattled dust from the ceiling. Kerr's voice burst over comms. Patrol ship inbound, bearing Archon insignia. I'd say we've overstayed the museum tour. Lift off, Tal ordered. Asha, bring Aviza. We're leaving. The Monastery of Wind sails. The monastery floated in the upper streams of a solar wind, its white membranes billowing like ghostly sails. The monks there spoke little. Their prayers were breaths measured against the rhythm of cosmic particles. A tall woman awaited them on the docking bridge, robes silver, eyes clear as frozen water. I am Abbess Mir, she said. You carry a conduit and haste in your hearts. One of the tones you seek sleeps here. We need it, Asha said. The prism awakens soon. The voice must be tested, said the abbess. Stand beneath the sails. Lose what is not yours. What remains will sing. Asha stepped forward. Solar wind enveloped her, an invisible tide pressing through bone and memory. Pain became music. Fear became chord. Within that sound she heard herself dissolve, until only a single note of pure woe remained. Then, beneath it, a deeper tone, massive, patient, older than stars. When the wind subsided she knelt trembling. The abbess touched her hair. Not your voice alone, but ours through you. The first tone is found. From the inner court approached a giant monk of obsidian skin, carrying an instrument that was half harp, half blade. Land Chorn, said the abbess. He forged this string from the wind's edge. He will join you. Lan inclined his head. If the sails permit, a tone is a debt repaid with song. Tal offered his hand. We pay in faith, and hurry. As they departed, the abbess whispered, remember, the choir is not against someone. It is for those yet unborn. Even tyrants will hear you in their dreams. The silent stone of Legatra. Legatra was a mined-out asteroid, its dark side carved into caverns where speech had been outlawed long ago. The dwellers communicated in rhythm, taps of heel, flashes of light, breaths against stone. Asha felt their silence vibrate like a drum. A girl approached, skin gray with dust, eyes bright as obsidian. She tapped 3 short, 2 long, paws. Welcome, interpreted Aviza in her mind. The girl, Reyna, led them to a chamber lined with glowing ore. When Asha took her hands, a surge of vibration leapt between them. The second tone, hammer on rock, pain into purpose. Reyna smiled without words and joined the crew. Moments later, Directorate sensors flared. A cruiser loomed beyond the asteroid rim. Kerr hissed. "They've found us again. I have exactly one trick left, and it involves not dying." "Sing the chorus," Asha said. "Sing what?" "What I heard on Kerix." She touched Aviza. Reyna placed her fingers on the other side. Lan drew his bow across the strewn. The sable miracle responded, the ship itself humming in counterpoint. It slipped into a debris corridor, invisible to the cruiser's instruments. The pursuers crashed against drifting rock, blind. Kerr exhaled. "I think I just fell in love with acoustics." "Mechanics is music," Tal murmured. Next stop, the Grey Harbor. The Grey Harbor. The Grey Harbor floated on the edge of a plasma storm. A city of markets and shadows where anything could be bought. Water rights, seconds of life, memories of dead worlds. Among its smoke and color they found their third tone, a young man with a scarred brow and mechanical arms. "I'm Jax," he said. "Used to hunt rebels by their resonance. Now I hunt silence in those who fear the truth. I heard your call. I'm your third." He led them through tunnels where laughter still survived, brittle but defiant. His tone was that laughter, the refusal to vanish. When all five stood before Aviza, the three new voices, Asha, and the conduit itself, the air around them thickened into harmony. "Three tones found," said Aviza. "Wind, stone, and laughter. Fourth, you, Asha Verdan. The fifth will come when the prism crowns itself with pride." Kerr checked his timer. 42 hours left, and Directorate ships sniffing our trail. Sirens wailed above. Through the cracked skylight, a massive cruiser eclipsed the storm. On its hull burned the symbol of Archon Malrek, an open eye within a triangle. "They've tracked us," Tal said calmly. "Where music is born, silence always comes to feed." "Do we run?" Jax asked. "No," said Asha. "We sing." She looked around at them. Tal's weary wisdom, Kerr's grin, Lan's solemn strength, Reyna's mute courage, Jax's scarred hope, and felt the chords of each fuse within her. The grid pulsed in answer, threads tightening across space. "We have a chance," she said. "We don't need permission. Song never asks to exist." The sable miracle rose through the storm, chased by black lightning. Below, the harbor's neon flickered like 1,000 dying prayers. Above, only darkness and destiny. "To Aner," said Asha. "To the morning song," whispered Tal. Inside its casing, Aviza glowed, soft, newborn light, the promise of dawn among the stars. Aner first appeared as a bruise on the star map, an ink-dark moon drifting in the pale wash of its parent planet. Its surface was vein-lit by construction lattices, all converging on a black blossom at the pole. The devouring prism, still scaffolding, still incomplete, yet already drinking the starlight around it. "They're ahead of schedule," Tal said, voice low. "Malrek's engineers don't sleep. Maybe they dream of silence," Kerr muttered, fingers dancing across the console. "I'll slip us through the perimeter nets. No promises about the part where we don't get turned into a tasteful cloud." Aviza pulsed in her cradle, a soft heartbeat glow. The prism feeds on alignment, geometric pride. Its flanks are 6, its heart is 5. "Break the heart." 5? Jax repeated. "A machine with a heart count?" 5 is the law it pretends not to obey," Aviza replied. 5 tones of the world. The Archon calls them superstition and then copies them, badly, in steel. Asha watched the moon swell in the viewport. Aner wasn't dead, it held a slow breath. The prism rose from the ice like a shadowed flower, each petal a mirror folded inward. Even unfinished, it seemed to look back, the way a bottomless pit does. Lan stood near the cargo bay, tuning the strewn with tiny movements that felt like prayer. Reyna sat cross-legged beside him, fingers tapping a silent pattern on her knee. Short, short, long, long, pause. Ligatran code for I am steady. Jax disassembled and reassembled a wrist module with the absent precision of a soldier awaiting an order that might be death. Tal, at the nav table, traced old smuggler routes that no longer existed except in stubborn memory. Asha leaned on the rail above them, feeling their tones the way she felt her own pulse. The choir was a living machine, wind, stone, laughter, and the fourth, hers, a thread pulling knots tight. The fifth was still a hush between them, a vacancy shaped like a future. "Kerr," she said, "put us in the shadow of the northern ridge. We go on foot past the field projectors, then up through the polar access spire. We don't bring blasters where a song can walk." Kerr snorted. "I can hide a blaster inside a song." "We'll need both," Jack said. "Trust me." They descended into black, the field of needles. The ice plain around the prism was seeded with needle towers, thin pylons that hummed at a frequency just shy of pain. Between them writhed a faint shimmer, interdiction fields tuned to crush resonance. The directorate had learned, after burning Orphelia, that music could carry messages farther than light if you knew where to aim it. So they built fences against songs. "This will bruise us," Tal warned. "We bruise," Asha said, and stepped forward. The field entered her bones like cold glass. It scraped the edges of the tone inside her, demanding it flatten, insisting on one note only, their note, the state-approved hum of obedience. Behind her, land drew the strewn and let a thread of sound exhale into the air. A counter-hum rose, quiet but precise. Reyna tapped a pattern with her heel, resistance in code. Jax grinned like a man walking into a bar fight and set his wrist module to emit a minute phase shift. They crossed, one breath at a time, the pylons complaining around them. Halfway through, lights flared on the horizon. Patrol drones, a trio, insect sleek, with laser eyes. Kerr swore softly. "If the needles don't break us, those will." "Then soften," Tal said. He took Ash's hand the way teachers do when they mean follow me across the river and ignore how deep it is. Not tougher, softer. Asha listened. The interdiction frequency was blunt force masquerading as purity. She imagined it as a wall of glass. She did not smash it. She poured herself through its hairline cracks, widening them not by violence but by presence. The drones paused, confused, their targeting logic uncertain. In their hesitance, Jax fired a burst of silent pulses, cycling their optics into sleep. 3 dark beads dropped into the snow. "Remind me to be terrified of you later," Kerr whispered. He kicked a needle base and flinched as it zapped his boot. "Ow!" Disrespect noted. They stepped into the prism's shadow. The air grew viscous. Sound fell away. The spire. The polar access spire rose like an organ pipe, ribbed with cables, patrolled by guards in smoked glass visors. Above, scaffolds latticed the mouth of the prism where technicians crawled like beetles over mirror panels. Asha felt watched, not by men, but by angles. Jax took point. His former crest, directorate runes burned into the back of his neck, had been scarred over, but their pattern still matched security doors. He buried his shame under function. At a side hatch he pressed his nape to the reader. The lock hesitated, blinked, recognized and obeyed. "Sometimes the past pays interest," he said wryly. "Sometimes it charges fees," Tal replied. They climbed service ladders into the throat of Einar's monster. The corridor architecture refused to echo. Walls were tuned to eat sound. Even the lights seemed muted. Reyna's breath puffed in small ghosts. Lance strewn thrummed against his chest with every rung, refusing silence like a heartbeat. At a mezzanine they paused. Below them, an atrium humming with machines, stood a glass vault like a seed pod, its surface alive with murmuring geometries. Within it hovered a crystalline engine, the prism's heart suspended in magnetic bite. Avisa pulsed once, twice, as if nodding. "There it is, the fifth pretender. How do we break it?" Kerr asked. "And by we, I mean preferably not me with a wrench." "You do not break it," Avisa said. "You invite it to listen, and become what it cannot." Tal frowned. "Engage a machine in metaphysics? Engage an Archon in pride," Asha answered, surprising herself with the certainty of it. The prism had been designed to devour the world's tones by naming them false, then trapping their reflections inside its mirrors. The only tone it could not codify was the one that did not fight it, the tone of welcome. She heard the thought, as if it belonged to someone wiser and older. Make space. Let space reply. Lan lifted the strewn. Reyna placed her palm on the glass rail. Jax set his module to broadcast a neutral carrier tone, no meaning, only capacity. Tal took a visa in both hands, the light washing his age lines smoother. On your breath, Asha whispered. In. They sang, not loudly, not heroically, but like people inviting a child to sleep. The note they made wasn't a melody, it was a room. The glass vault trembled, the crystal within rotated, facets blinking. Somewhere above, alarms should have brayed, but the prism, arrogant, had not installed alarms against welcome. It did not expect grace. Light seeped through the vault seams. As it did, a presence gathered in Ash's chest, not a visa, not any of them. It felt like a door being found in a wall everyone had agreed was solid. The fifth tone stepped through. It was small and ancient at once, no voice, then voice everywhere. It tasted like a first laugh, like someone forgiving without needing an apology, like the silence after pain when you realize pain has a horizon. Reyna's eyes filled. Lan bowed his head. Tal's fingers tightened on the conduit. Kerr forgot to breathe, then laughed softly because he'd remembered. Jax's jaw clenched. He looked down at his mechanical hands as if seeing them for the first time without hate. Name? Aviza asked, almost shyly. The new presence brushed them all and answered without syllables. Not yet. Names are cages too soon. Let me be door. Asha smiled. Then be door. The vault seals clicked open. Company, Kerr said, almost cheerful, because danger was familiar ground. A brigade of guards poured onto the mezzanine, visors black, rifles up. The lead helmet tilted, and when the speaker cracked on, it carried a voice Asha had only heard in smuggled broadcasts. Smooth, almost kind, sharp as winter. Archon Malrek, you walk in my house without knocking, he said through the guard's mouthpiece. And you sing in the library. How rude. Archon, Tal said dryly, my compliments on your interior design. Tal Ren, Malrek mused. The professor who taught the chapel to believe in fairy tales. How pleasant to meet at last. Asha felt the fifth, hovering like a hand over a door latch. Do we open? It seemed to ask. Yes, she breathed, but softly. Seize them, Malrek commanded. The guard line moved and stopped. Not by force, but by delay. Their eyes behind glass blinked as if mid-thought. The fifth had opened a room inside their orders, a pause where reflection could live. Reyna tapped the rail, short long, a ligatran rhythm for remember yourself. One soldier lowered his gun. Another staggered back a step, as if dizzy from the weight of possibility. Malrek's voice chilled. Recalibrate. Fire on my mark. Jax stepped forward. On whose conscience? He called. He raised his scarred neck, showing the old runes. I wore your crest, Archon. I enforced your hum. I know what you put in these men's ears. It isn't courage. Conscience, Malrek echoed, amused. Anecdote dressed as law. Then, almost lazily, Mark. A shot cracked. A guard on the flank had not paused. The bolt lanced across the mezzanine. Asha felt the world tilt. She turned, and saw Tal stagger. The bolt had scored his side, bright and ugly. Tal. Kerr lunged, dragging him down behind the rail. Blood steamed in the cold air. More shots. Lance-strewn howled, not music but force. The air around them danced sang, bending trajectories. Reyna hauled a fallen shield to cover Kerr as he pressed sealant to Tal's wound. Jax vaulted the rail with the grace of a man who had trained to betray and chose not to. Asha reached for Aviza and for the fifth together. The pairing felt right, conduit and door, history and invitation. She threw their joint tone into the vault, into the crystal heart. Listen, she whispered to the machine. Listen the way the world once did. The heart flickered. Its mirrors briefly uncurled, each panel reflecting not bodies, not targets, but the room they had sung. a chamber with space for choice. For the first time, the prism hesitated. A squad of black-clad engineers on a catwalk above tried to seal the vault again. Jax fired a precise burst. The catwalk groaned. A man slipped, and might have fallen to death, until Lan's bowstring snapped out like a whip and caught him by his harness. The engineer dangled, stunned. He stared down at them, chest heaving, and started to cry, quietly, like someone who hadn't known tears were still possible. Door. The fifth said inside them all, a breeze across the mind. Door, Asha agreed, and widened it. The first betrayal. They almost made it to the heart. The last barrier was a bridge taut as a blade, spanning a chasm of humming infrastructure. A single figure waited at its far end, a woman in directorate black, visor up. Her face was the kind born for portraits, clear lines, severe beauty. Her eyes were gold-flecked and unafraid. Asha Verdan, she said, speaking the name with unsettling intimacy. Stand down. How do you know me? Because I listened to Kerix Wind for 20 years, she said. Because I was chapel before I learned to survive by being nothing at all. She smiled without warmth. And because I sent the patrols to your crater. Kerr swore under his breath. Our ghost on Kerix, he hissed. Tal clenched his jaw against pain. Who are you? My mother named me Ser, she said. The directorate named me Captain Sarant Vale. The Archon calls me useful. Why? Asha asked. Why betray us? Because songs don't feed children, Ser said. Because I watched chapel friends die for poetry while Malrek built factories. Because people who can't hear the resonance still need water, and he provides it, for a price. Because if I deliver you, I buy a reprieve for 3,000 miners on Vandra Prime. She lifted her palm. Her glove glowed with the same skin keys Jax once wore. I won't miss. The choir's harmony wavered. The door in the air trembled, not closing but doubting. Asha did not raise a weapon. She stepped onto the bridge and felt the blade edge flex. If you deliver us, she said softly, you buy those miners a winter. If you don't, you might buy the universe a spring. Grand wagers are for those with full bellies, Ser said. But her voice cracked on bellies. Reyna moved to Asha's side, silent as moon shadow. Lan stood behind them like a tree, unhurried and immovable. Jax, off to the flank, raised his hands, palms open, machines and all. Archon Malrek will mute every tone, Tal said, breath thin. Yours as well. The price keeps rising, Captain. He will eat your reprieve. Something in Ser's face flinched. She aimed anyway. Asha inhaled. There are moments when a tone isn't sung but decided. She reached for the fifth and for the kind of courage that isn't dramatic, only stubborn. She did not beg or threaten. She widened the door again, this time not toward the machine, but toward the human across from her. Come with us, Asha said. Fail him. Save no one for a day. Help us save everyone for a lifetime. Ser's finger tightened. A shot, bright, hot, flashed. Lan moved. The bolt struck the strewn, sang through it, split into harmless sparks. The instrument smoked, strings glowing, body scorched, but it held. Ser stared, as if the world had done something impolite to her calculations. Slowly, as if weight pressed her arms, she lowered the gun. I hate you, she said, and Asha believed that she meant, I hate the part of me that wants to believe you. If this dam breaks, and no water comes, your faces will haunt me. Let them, Asha said. Let them remind you you're alive. Ser stepped aside. The door inside the choir steadied. The fifth brushed their cheeks like cold dawn. The heart. They entered the vault. Up close, the crystal was not smooth. It was layered with micro-etchings. Recordings of 1,000,000 stolen songs, all flattened, all catalogued. A museum of captured breath. Asha placed her hand on it. I will not fight you, she murmured. I'll listen until you must. The heart turned, fragment by fragment. Reflection swept over her skin. A child on Kerix watching salt storms. A monk under sails. A girl tapping stone. A soldier laughing despite metal hands. An old navigator bleeding but brave. a woman with golden eyes choosing doubt. Open, she said. The prism tried to calculate an answer. It had models for assault, capture, denial. It had none for invitation. That gap, its arrogance, was the chisel. The crystal's facets unfolded like petals at night. Light poured out. Not blinding, but gentle, as if releasing held breath. The vault rang with a chord that was not sound alone but decision. Across Aner, the mirror petals of the prism shuddered. The scaffolds rattled. Technicians stopped, tools dangling, as a hush moved through the structure, simple and enormous. Malrek's voice returned, spitting through a dozen speakers at once. Seal it, lock them out, collapse the polar spire. The floor quaked, bolts sheared. Somewhere, a column tore loose and slashed down. Reyna leapt, hauling Asha aside as a shard the size of a door knifed the space they'd occupied. Jax grabbed Avisa's cradle, land-shouldered tall, grim and tender both. Kerr, Asha shouted. Kerr's voice crackled back, a grin audible even in terror. Already way ahead. I've got the sable spooled and sulking. If you don't die in the next 90 seconds, I'll deliver the best exit this moon has ever seen. Ser's comm pinged with Malrek's private channel. Asha saw the flinch. Captain, the Archon said, gentle as poison. Close the vault. Prove your love for the living. Ser looked at Asha, then at the heart-blooming light. I choose larger living, she said, and smashed her glove into the override. Open, not close. Welcome, Asha whispered to the machine one last time. Be what you pretended to devour. The heart answered with a tone like a horizon appearing. Flight. They ran. The spire collapsed behind them in steel thunder. The needle towers outside sang off key and fell. On the ridge, the sable miracle crouched like a dark bird, engines whining, Kerr swearing lullabies to keep them awake. Reyna and Jax hauled tall up the ramp. Land followed, strewn charred but held like a relic. Ser came last, looking back only once, as if leaving a house where she had learned to forget herself. A volley of fire chased them from the crater, one last convulsion of the prism as Malrek tried to claw back control. Beams licked the hull. Alarms screamed. Avisa's light surged to meet each hit with countertone, the fifth spreading like calm water across a panicked mind. They punched free of Aner's thin sky into star-washed dark. Below, the prism writhed like a wounded thought. It did not die. It changed. Its panels, unable to seal against a welcome, reoriented not inward but outward. Where it had once consumed, it now refracted. A beam of soft radiance lanced into space, not as weapon but as call. Across the grid, threads shivered. Did we win? Kerr asked, half laughing, half crying. We survived the first verse, Tal said, breathing shallowly. He managed a smile. And we turned the enemy's throat into a bell. Avisa's light dimmed and warmed. The fifth is awake. Asha closed her eyes. She could feel it, the door in the world, open and patient. How long until Malrek adapts? Jax asked. He already knew the answer. Not long. Hours, Tal said. Days if the gods nap. Then we move, Asha said. The choir has sung once. Now we teach others to sing. Sarah leaned against the bulkhead, the first lines of consequence settling into her face. You will have enemies, she said. Worse than me. We will have students, Asha replied. Some inside enemy uniforms. Sarah stared at the deck, then nodded, the smallest bow of someone learning a new gravity. Where do you go? Asha looked at the star map. Threads brightened in her mind. Worlds that had been quiet stirring like sleepers sensing dawn. Where the silence is loudest, she said. Where pride is strongest. Where hunger for song hurts the most. Lan rested the strewn across his knees and plucked a single note. Clean, plain, enough. Reyna tapped the bulkhead. Together. Jax slotted a new chip into his wrist module. Let's make trouble, he said, but smiled like hope. Kerr throttled up, and the sable miracle leapt, leaving Aner's transforming flower behind. Once a maw, now a mirror to the stars. As the ship threaded into the dark, Asha felt the grid thrum. Somewhere far, a reply sounded. Another voice waking, faint but sure. The choir had begun. Part 3? Kerr asked, playful in the face of certainty. Asha opened her eyes. In the viewport, a distant constellation blinked like someone signaling across a lake at night. Part 3, she said. The bell and the blade. And the stars, finally, seemed a little less cold. The sable miracle drifted in the hollow between systems, its hull shimmering with residual light from Einar's awakening. For the first time since Kerix, there was quiet, not the oppressive quiet of fear, but the kind that follows revelation. Asha Verdan stood in the viewing dome, watching the distant bloom of the prism still glowing like a wounded sun. It no longer devoured, it reflected. Every few seconds, it pulsed, soft, slow, patient, as if breathing for the first time. And across the void, she could feel the grid hum in answer. Threads were reknitting, but peace, Tal had warned her, was never silent for long. The echo of the Archon Malrek survived Einar's collapse. The intelligence that ruled half the Directorate was not merely human anymore. Its mind diffused through servers, satellites, and synthetics. It had already begun to reassemble its body from fragments of command ice, each one burning like a shard of rage. On the Sable, Aviza's tone dimmed. He listens again. The silence he built is wounded, not gone. Let him listen, Kerr said, running diagnostics. Maybe he'll learn to hum. No, Tal replied softly. He'll weaponize the echo. Jax tightened the straps of his exosuit. He'll come hunting for the choir. He already is, Asha said. The moment we opened that door, he heard where it leads. She turned toward Aviza's cradle. How long before he can reach us? 3 jumps, maybe 2. He follows resonance. But he cannot yet sing, only mimic. Then we need allies, Asha decided. Worlds that still remember the song but are too afraid to speak it. Tal nodded. The planet Velas, once a monastery world. Before Malrek, its people built resonance towers to heal the sick through harmonic fields. Now it's a Directorate fortress. If we can light one tower again. Kerr grinned. You'll make it a lighthouse. Yes, Asha said. And a bell. The ghosts of Velas. Velas appeared as a dying ember, a crimson world scarred by mining pits and data spires. When Sable broke orbit, static filled the channels. The planet's surface vibrated with the low hum of industrial control waves. Every broadcast repeated a single phrase. Obedience brings clarity. Silence brings peace. Reyna flinched at the sound. Her fingers tapped an urgent rhythm on her thigh. Pain in the air. Subharmonic control field, Tal explained. They're flooding the atmosphere with dampeners to crush independent thought. Classic Directorate trick. They call it the peace tone. Peace, Kerr spat. Their favorite lie. They landed near the ruins of the old resonant citadel, a once holy site where monks tuned crystals to the frequencies of life. Now it was a garrison. Asha could feel the air itself resisting thought, the hum pushing into her skull like a weight. Lan, she whispered, the strewn. He unslung the blackened instrument. The strings were cracked from the blast at Einar, but they still held memory. He plucked a single note, soft, defiant. The air wavered. The oppressive hum bent for a breath. Jax smiled. The bell still works. Let's ring it louder, Asha said. The bell. They split into 2 teams. Kerr and Jax infiltrated the control hub disguised as maintenance workers. Reyna, Lan, and Asha climbed the outer towers, hauling Aviza's cradle toward the central array. Tal remained aboard Sable, feeding coordinates and patching every whisper into a growing map of the planet's forgotten tones. Inside the tower, Asha saw what the Directorate had done. Sacred harmonic chambers filled with machinery, walls carved with suppressor glyphs, monks' murals overpainted with slogans. Everywhere, silence screaming to be broken. Lan, she said quietly, can you tune the strewn to the old key? He closed his eyes and adjusted the pegs. Reyna joined him, placing her palm against the wall, feeling for the lost rhythm beneath metal. Together, they found it, the old frequency, buried but alive. Aviza brightened. The tower remembers its purpose. They began to play, not loud, but deep. Asha joined, letting her breath shape the tone, a pulse that carried both grief and hope. Below, Jax heard the vibration echo through the pipes. He slammed the override on the central console. Now, Kerr grinned and threw the breaker. Let's make some noise. Every tower on Velas shuddered as the dampeners flipped polarity. The peace tone inverted, turning obedience into release. For the first time in decades, the world sang back. Voices, real, human voices, rose from the mining barracks. Some were screams, others laughter. Shackled minds snapped awake, weeping at the sudden weight of freedom. In orbit, directorate relays exploded one by one as their harmony circuits failed under the new song. And in the center of it all, the citadel rang like a bell. The blade, but freedom always draws fire. From orbit descended Malrek's enforcers, black-winged drones slicing atmosphere. Their sound was knife-sharp, each one broadcasting a counter-frequency meant to tear the choir apart. Avisa pulsed in warning. He has learned to imitate. Beware the false tones. Lan struck the strewn again, answering steel with melody. Jax fired upward, his blasters synchronized to Lan's rhythm, each shot landing between beats, a deadly percussion. Reyna moved like smoke, guiding freed workers toward cover. Kerr barked through comms. We have 3 minutes before the cruisers get line of sight. Either we flee or we finish the song. Both, Asha said. Finish it on the move. She leapt onto a fallen support, raised her voice, not words, but resonance, and called the fifth. The air shimmered. The sound of the new door spread through the storm of metal. Drones veered off course, confused by echoes of their own programming. Sing with me, she cried to the workers. If you can breathe, you can sing. They did. Rough, frightened, out of tune, but together. And something immense stirred within the tower, an old machine remembering its kindness. A pillar of golden light erupted from the citadel, piercing the red sky. The drones disintegrated within it. The cruisers above staggered, engines choking on pure resonance. Malrek's voice cut through the storm, disembodied and furious. You cannot fight forever, little voice. Each song you free will feed my silence. I will make beauty your chain. Asha looked up at the falling fragments of steel. Then we'll make chains that sing. Kerr's voice crackled through. We've got to go, now. The sable miracle swooped low, ramp open. Lan and Reyna hauled Asha aboard just as the tower burst into radiant flame, not destruction, but transformation. Behind them, Velas shone like a bell struck once and left to resonate through the cosmos. The price of sound. Tal met them in the cockpit, pale but smiling. The grid is stirring. We've awakened 6 neighboring nodes. The chapel's song is spreading again. And Malrek? Jax asked. Regrouping, Tal said. He's losing control of the directorate's own minds. But that makes him dangerous. He'll come himself next time. Ser, standing in the shadows, folded her arms. Then we need to strike first. Asha turned to her. You know where his core is. Ser hesitated. Yes, the Vigilant Crown. His orbital citadel above the gas giant Maris. A fortress built to silence worlds. No one gets close without becoming part of his choir of ghosts. Kerr leaned back. Guess we'll just have to outsing the dead. Avisa pulsed gently. The bell has rung. The blade has fallen. The next song will not save, it will judge. What does that mean? Reyna signed quickly. To awaken the final chord, Avisa answered, one of you must fall silent willingly. The harmony of loss is the seed of renewal. Silence filled the cabin. Even the ship seemed to hold its breath. Tal broke it first, voice thin but steady. Every symphony has its rest. Asha shook her head. We'll find another way. Lan touched her shoulder. Music always ends somewhere, Asha. But endings are only rests between movements. She looked at each of them, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the stars, and felt the ache of inevitability. The choir had become family. And soon, one voice would have to leave it. Toward the crown, they set course for Maris. The planet filled the viewport, a churning giant of amber clouds, its upper atmosphere veiled with lightning. Above it hung the Vigilant Crown, a ring of towers humming with the deepest silence in the galaxy. Avisa dimmed. The crown is the wound where the grid bleeds. To heal it, you must open it. Jax checked his weapons, then paused, uncertain. And if opening it kills us? Then you will have ended the long night. Tal exhaled, not comforting but historically accurate. Kerr adjusted the navigation. Approach vector locked. The crown won't see us coming if we ride the gas storms. Reyna tapped the bulkhead. Ready. Sarah took the co-pilot seat. If we're lucky, she said, we'll reach the Archon's core before his next silence wave. If we're not, Asha interrupted gently, then we'll still sing. The sable miracle descended into the storm, lightning curling around its hull like threads of liquid gold. The choir gathered in the cabin, Lan with his wounded strewn, Reyna with her quiet courage, Jax with his half-machine hands, Sarah with her divided heart, Kerr with his laughter, Tal with his wisdom, and Asha with the fifth humming within her chest. They sang softly, not a battle cry, but a promise. The grid trembled in answer, 1,000 worlds whispering back through invisible chords. And above, the crown waited, silent, immense, the heart of all obedience. It would be the final song stage. Maris roared below like a sleeping god, its amber storms spiraling into cyclones the size of continents. Above it, the Vigilant Crown turned, a ring of dark towers orbiting in perfect mathematical harmony. No stars shone here, their light bent away, swallowed by the crown's silence field. The sable miracle drifted in the upper haze, her engines whispering at minimal thrust. Within, the choir prepared for their final song. The threshold, signal dampeners at maximum, Kerr muttered, fingers moving across the controls. We're invisible, until we aren't. Reyna traced a rhythm on the hull plating. Listen first. Avisa's voice filled the cabin, soft as breath. The crown hums with stolen resonance. Its towers draw on the despair of 1,000 conquered worlds. Their silence is not emptiness, it's compression, a weight that needs release. Then we find the release valve, Jax said grimly. Sarah stood at the observation glass, eyes fixed on the towers. Each segment is a memory vault. He stores fragments of every mind he's silenced, an archive of obedience. Tal adjusted his worn jacket, the gesture more habit than vanity. So the key to destroying him is to make him remember what he's stolen. Asha nodded slowly. We don't need to fight the crown. We need to make it listen to itself. Avisa pulsed once, approval, or sorrow, or both. One must stay to hold the tone. Only one voice can anchor the dawn. No one answered. Not yet. Descent into silence. They cut engines and entered the crown through a maintenance vent beneath one of the equatorial towers. The passage was lined with black glass and silver filaments that pulsed faintly with sub-audible hums, residual thoughts frozen mid-cry. Reyna shivered. Too many ghosts, she signed. Asha touched the wall. The hum bled into her skin. Fear, surrender, regret, all pressed into silence. We free them, she whispered. The chamber opened into a cathedral of machinery. Vast vertical arrays rose like organ pipes, each containing a suspended shape, humanoid silhouettes, their outlines flickering like candle smoke. The stolen voices. Lan set his strewn down reverently and plucked a single note. It echoed through the hall, and every suspended shape rippled in response. They hear us, he said quietly. Then let's give them something to answer, Jax murmured. The Archon speaks. The air chilled. A holographic shimmer rippled across the chamber floor, resolving into the tall figure of Archon Malrek. His face was carved from calm, too symmetrical, too deliberate. His eyes were lightless voids that reflected everyone back distorted. You survived Aner, he said. You even turned my prism into a mirror. Clever parasites. But reflection is still obedience. It shows what already is. You cannot create. We don't create, Asha said. We remind. Malrek smiled, and the air trembled. Do you know why I silenced the worlds, child? Because the universe is chaos without a conductor. Every mind screaming its own truth until all meaning drowns. I gave them rest. You gave them graves, Ser snapped. The Archon turned to her, almost kindly. Ah, Captain Vale. The prodigal noise. Do you truly think betrayal redeems you? You traded your miners for him. They will burn when I collapse this orbit. Ser's jaw tightened, but she didn't lower her gaze. Asha stepped forward. You misunderstand music, Archon. It isn't order or chaos. It's balance. Silence between notes gives them shape, but silence alone is nothing. Malrek's calm cracked. You dare teach me harmony? His projection flared, towering. I am the harmony. I am the end of dissonance. And with that, the towers began to sing. The war of songs. It was not sound, it was pressure, a gravitational hum that bent the body inward. The crown's resonance field activated, broadcasting a tone meant to erase all others. The choir fell to their knees as the air vibrated into pain. Lan forced his arm upward, dragging his bow across the strewn. The single note he produced cut through the field for a heartbeat, carving a narrow gap of relief. Reyna added her rhythm, taps and breaths that filled the silence between his beats. Jax joined with the metallic percussion of his prosthetic hands against the floor. Kerr, bleeding from his nose, activated every sonic relay on the Sable remotely, turning the ship's engines into subharmonic amplifiers. Aviza flared in her cradle, merging her tone with theirs. He is strong because he feeds on what is broken. Turn his hunger against him. How? Asha gasped. Give him your truth. All of it. She stood, trembling, and began to sing, not with words, but with memory. She sang Kerix's endless salt, the laughter of Kerr in the dunes, the sails of the monastery, the tapping stone of Legatra, the bell of Velas, the moment the fifth had opened its door. Her voice carried through the hall, brushing the suspended shapes. One by one, they flickered brighter, faces forming from vapor, mouths opening in soundless echoes that soon became real voices. Thousands of silenced souls began to hum. Malrek's tone faltered. Stop, you don't know what you're unleashing. Oh, I do, Asha said. You kept their silence. I'm giving it back. The crown shook. Cracks of light spidered through its walls. The choice. Then came the counterstrike. From every tower poured waves of dark energy, sound inverted, resonance reversed. The choir reeled. Tal collapsed, clutching his chest. Kerr screamed as consoles sparked. Reyna fell to one knee, blood at her ears. Aviza's voice grew faint. The harmony can't hold. Someone must anchor it, or it will tear itself apart. Asha looked around. Tal's eyes met hers, calm even in pain. I've already walked too many roads, child, he whispered. Every song needs its rest. Let me be that rest. No, she shouted. We need you. He smiled gently. You need memory more than flesh. I'll stay. You go. He reached out, placing his trembling hand on Aviza's core. Old friend, he murmured, teach me one last verse. Aviza glowed. The resonance swelled. Tal's body became light, threads of it rising like dust at dawn. His voice joined the harmony, pure and endless. The shockwave stabilized. The inverted tone recoiled, unable to consume what welcomed it. Asha sobbed, but the song did not falter. The dawn. Malrek's hologram staggered, flickering. You think sacrifice makes you holy? No, Asha said. It makes us whole. She raised her hand, guiding the choir into the final cadence. Lance-strewn rang. Reyna struck her palms together in the rhythm of hearts. Jax fired his blasters into the tower cores, each shot releasing another captured soul. Ser, tears streaking her face, reactivated the crown's comm array, broadcasting the song across every directorate channel. For the first time in centuries, the grid sang through every world. Malrek screamed as his own systems overloaded. The towers imploded inward, not exploding but folding, each one becoming a column of light shooting outward, carrying freed voices into the cosmos. The Sable miracle shook violently. Kerr wrestled the controls, shouting, "We've got seconds before the orbit collapses." "Hold the tone," Asha yelled. They reached the docking bay just as the crown began to crumble. Sarah dragged Reyna up the ramp. Lan stumbled behind, clutching the half-broken strewn. Jax turned back for one final look, and saw Asha still standing in the collapsing hall, light swirling around her. "Asha," he roared. She smiled faintly. "Go. The choir needs a new conductor." He hesitated, but something in her voice, steady and infinite, told him to trust. He ran. The rising light. When the sable miracle broke free of the crown, the ring had become a halo of light spreading across Maris's upper atmosphere. Within that radiance, Asha stood at the center, her voice merging with Tal's, with Avisa's, with the thousands she'd freed. The fifth spoke through her. Every silence is only waiting for a voice. The light expanded until it covered the sky. Then, calm. Kerr's sensors blinked erratically. I don't know what I'm looking at." Lan whispered, "The grid, reborn." From the ashes of the crown, luminous filaments unfurled into space. Threads connecting world to world, heart to heart. The great lattice that had once united civilizations now pulsed again, alive and vast. And somewhere within that web, a soft voice, Ash's voice, lingered. "Keep singing. Always." Epilogue, the new harmony. Months later, the galaxy was different. The directorate fractured without its Archon. Worlds once isolated began to communicate through the grid's rebirth. Songs, literal and metaphorical, traveled faster than light. On a rebuilt Velis, the first new resonant citadel stood tall, its bell tower inscribed with simple words. "Every silence deserves a song." Reyna taught children how to find rhythm in the wind. Lan built a new strewn from fragments of the old one, its strings forged from the crown's melted metal. Jax became a guardian of the freed archives, collecting the memories Malrek had hoarded. Kerr piloted the Sable Miracle, now a carrier of voices, ferrying singers and dreamers between stars. Sarah commanded the Peace Fleet, not to rule, but to protect the reborn choirs. And sometimes when the night stretched quiet and long, they all heard her, Ash's voice, woven into the grid like a heartbeat. "I am not gone. I am the space between your notes." On one such night, Lan lifted his strewn and played the melody they'd written together, the melody of Kerix salt, of wind and stone, of laughter, of loss, of dawn. The universe listened, and this time, it sang back.